Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Which is the Moon. I'm your Monday host, Natalie, and this is week, I believe, 19. We're almost at the end of our season already. So, yes, week 19, pick a tarot card and interpret. Now, I apologize. You can see my ugly little legs in the background here. I'm trying to get that out of there as much as possible. So, this week, we have decided to pick a tarot card and interpret that card, kind of give you our meanings. And I kind of struggled because I had a couple of cards that I wanted to pick that I really like the interpretations of. My reading is very intuitive by nature, so I don't read reversals specifically as having a separate meaning. And I always believe that there's multiple meanings to a card. I also may interpret a card differently depending on the deck, which is why I have the same card out here 4 times. So what I wanted to do was talk about my interpretations of the Two of Cups based on some of the decks that I have. Now, it's going to vary, of course, depending on where that card falls in a reading and what the individual meanings of the card placements are in that reading. But typically, the twos represent choices throughout the suits, right? So you have a choice to make. There's two options to something, right? Now, the first deck that I'm going to discuss is the Stolen Child Tarot by Monica Knighton. This was one that I backed on Indigo or on Kickstarter. I think it was Indie Pop or whatever it is. And I love this deck. I got it specifically because she based it on Yeats' poem, and I really, really liked her artwork, which, by the way, covers the box. The box, phenomenal. Little magnetic open and closure here. And the cards are beautiful. I mean, the artwork is just gorgeous. But I get a very different feel from this Two of Cups. Now, she names the suit of cups brine in her deck because brine, of course, is water, salt water, and the ocean. So the element of water corresponds to the suit of cups. When I look at this, to me, this doesn't seem as much like a choice as it seems like a need to withdraw into something that is comforting to us, right? Like a relationship we have with someone that we see larger than ourselves, and we're just drawing ourselves into that relationship. So that's a very different kind of interpretation than I typically get from the Two of Cups, because when I look at the Two of Cups, I do as I do from the Everyday Witch Tarot by Deborah Blake and the Dreamer's Tarot, which, to be honest with you, I don't even remember who made this deck, but I love it. When you look at these two cards as a Two of Cups, it looks like the ideal partnership, right? And that is exactly how I typically will read this card, that you either, if it's a positive meaning, then it's you are in the ideal partnership. If it's something that I feel like I'm getting a negative vibe from, then it means you might think it's a good relationship, but it's really not. That, you think things are hunky-dory, but there's other stuff going on that you're either not aware of or you're turning a blind eye to, that make what you put on the outside as an ideal partnership is not an ideal partnership. And I get more of that feel from this card, which is from the Crow Tarot by MJ Cullinane. And this one was one that I originally backed on Indigo or on Kickstarter. I get those two mixed up. I think this one was Indigo. And this is the actual published deck that you can buy. I have the Kickstarter only version, or the Indigo only version of it, that I actually like better. The cards are a little bit smaller and easier for my hands to handle, but I also like the backs better because they were blue. They were really stunning. And this is not bad, but I was kind of disappointed when I got the actual deck and saw that it was not the same. Now, this artwork's the same. And this, you can see, there's a choice of the heart, right? That things need to flow from one to the other. You can still interpret this as an ideal partnership because things are flowing well between them and they're one at heart, right? They're like the codices. This is the codices, which is a medical thing, right? So it's one of those things that represents an intertwining of physical and spiritual idealness, a balance, right? And things are great. But I also get a little bit more of this, that feeling that I get from this one, that this is a need to make your decision based on the higher calling, right? Or to withdraw into that relationship that is more powerful than yourself, right? That sometimes the combining of two things makes one better thing, which is just kind of a different interpretation of you know, an ideal partnership. And typically I see this as a good card, but twos almost always represent a choice to be made, or a coming together of two things. So if you were to look at this as a choice to be made between relationships, it could be that maybe you need to make a choice between two things that you like in your life, but you're going to have to choose between one of those two things and make it work, right? Even though you don't want to give up the other. So that's one of the more negative uh, kinds of things that you might get out of that card, or a not as happy meaning to that card, right? Because twos are choices. But for me, the Two of Cups represents that ideal partnership, that coming together of two minds into one greater thing, or into lending yourself into something that's much bigger than yourself. And that's really kind of what I get. Mix those up. Sorry about that. So that is my interpretation of the Two of Cups. Where you might see different things lay out is, like, for example, say in a reading you get the Two of Cups next to perhaps the Four of Swords. Okay, if I was doing this as a reading where what am I desiring and what am I looking at? Or what is the reality of things? This tells me that you need to be in a state of repose, that right now is not the time for your Two of Cups, right? You're seeking that ideal partnership when really you're facing a lot of betrayal from different areas. And this is a time to just repose and recoup and focus on yourself rather than on the relationships that are not working out for you. So that's just one of the ways in which I might interpret that in a reading, right? So, card interpretations are going to vary depending on the deck, the layout, the spread you're using, and your interpretation. What you hear and what you first see in your mind when that snap judgment about, that's what this is, because that is always what I go with. I will always go with what I first think. But for me, the Two of Cups usually represents the ideal partnership, that coming together of two minds into one greater thing that makes you both better than you were alone. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I realize it's a little bit short, but it's one card, it's an interpretation, and again, it's going to vary a lot depending on where it lays out. But just love that Two of Cups as your choice between things that are good for you and that ideal partnership. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.